So is it Helly or Helena in episode 3 of Severance? Mark trying to communicate, ending up in reintegration, and tons of other bizarre moments and hidden details you might have missed. Come along with me as we break it all down and analyze episode 3 of Severance season 2. Guys, every new episode of this season of Severance just gets weirder and the pile of unanswered questions keeps growing. Quick heads up, I'll be breaking down every new episode of Severance each week, so stick around. Plus expect even more theory videos about this incredible Apple TV series. Now let's dive into the bizarre world of Lumon because there's no shortage of strange stuff to analyze. I want to start with Harmony, Ms. Cobel. Right at the beginning of the episode, we can see she's going through a rough time. Avidari looks like she's been sleeping in her car. She was fired from Lumon and hasn't accepted the new position they offered her yet. So at this point, she has nothing left. I really like the symbolism they used with her here, whether intentional or not. There's this moment where she stops in the middle of the road, reflecting on her next move, completely surrounded by nothing but snow. Just vast, empty fields of snow. It perfectly mirrors where she is in life. She lost Lumon, which seems to have been the only thing she truly cared about. Her job defined her. Now she has nowhere to go, no home, nothing. The only thing left is that consultant position at Lumon, which they offered in the last episode, and she said she'd think about it. But before we get into her conversation with Helena, I want to point out something interesting, a theory connected to what we see in the backseat of her car. Once again, we see that oxygen mask and hose with a tag that says Charlotte Cobel. Now, I'm not sure if Charlotte is Harmony's mother or daughter, but there's a strong connection we can make here, one that ties directly to Gemma, Mark's wife. It's possible that Harmony's family member had an illness or a condition that caught Lumon's interest, and they offered to help. Maybe Charlotte's condition was similar to what happened to Gemma after the car accident. That would explain why Harmony is so obsessed with Mark S., the Cold Harbor Project, and Ms. Casey. In my last breakdown, I pointed out how Harmony always keeps a close eye on the interactions between Mark S. and Ms. Casey in the Severance floor. Harmony might be keeping an eye on Gemma's progress with the data refinement work because if it works on Gemma, she could potentially replicate the process on her own family member and bring her back to normal. Now, moving on to Harmony's conversation with Helena. Once again, Harmony pushes for her demand to be reinstated as the head of the Severance floor. The conversation is intense and Helena doesn't hold back, making it clear that Lumon didn't need to bring Harmony back. This suggests that Lumon only offered her a new position as a form of recognition for her past work, nothing more. But Harmony fires back with, "You didn't have a choice." That response is really interesting. It's clear that Harmony understands severed employees better than anyone. She knows exactly how their minds work. She also possesses knowledge about Lumon, possibly classified information that the company definitely doesn't want getting out. And if we go back to the Charlotte theory, if Charlotte is in the same condition as Gemma, then the most qualified person to oversee a cold harbor procedure on Charlotte would be Harmony herself, through data refinement. But then Helena coldly responds, "Are you sure?" As if to say, no choice. Oh, we have a choice. And that line felt incredibly threatening to me, especially since Helena follows up with, "Why don't we start over?" It doesn't have to be this way. This makes it very clear. Lumon is absolutely willing to eliminate people to protect its confidential projects and the integrity of the Severance floor. And I think Harmony realizes this the moment Helena invites her back to Lumon to speak with the board. From Harmony's perspective, this could easily be a trap, a way to lure her inside Lumon's walls and deal with her permanently, tying up the loose end that is Ms. Cobel. Now I want to talk about Dylan G. For his good behavior, he was rewarded with 18 minutes of conversation with his Audi's wife. This is only going to make Dylan even more loyal to Milchick since Milchick had promised him this, and voila, here it is. During the call, Dylan's wife mentions that his Audi struggles to keep a job for long. Dylan G then asks if that means he's incompetent, but interestingly, she doesn't answer. Instead, she quickly changes the subject. Dylan responds by saying he'll behave and make her proud. Later at home, Dylan's Audi asks his wife how her conversation with his innie went. And this is where things get interesting. It looks like we might have a little problem brewing between Audis and innies. Dylan's Audi questions his wife with a suspicious look, and we know that the Audi and innie versions of a person can have completely different personalities. So, what if Dylan's Audi starts feeling jealous of his innie? Think about it. Inside Lumen, Dylan G is one of the best refiners. Outside Lumen, he's a guy who can't seem to hold down a job, and I'll take it even further. What if we see Dylan's Audi's wife falling for his innie version? That would be wild to watch unfold. Now, I'd like to bring Helly into the discussion. I see a lot of people debating whether Helly is actually Helena. In other words, if her Audi is pretending to be her innie. In our last episode breakdown, we talked about the possibility that Helena might be curious about the life her innie Helly leads inside the Severance floor, especially after that moment when she kisses Mark S. Honestly, I don't believe it's Helena. I think it's still Helly's innie. Her behavior and mannerisms in this episode feel the same as always to me. Plus, it would take a lot of effort for Helena to perfectly mimic Helly. I see huge differences between them, just like with Mark, who is more serious on the outside but more social inside. Similarly, Helly's Audi is extremely cold and calculated, while her innie is much more spontaneous and strong-willed. But now let's talk about the weirdest part of the show, Mark's storyline with the goats. Mark S. and Helly end up finding a room that looks almost like a mini farm filled with goats. The goats have been a big mystery since season 1, and here we see that people actually work in this department. In fact, there are quite a few of them, way more than in data refinement. Now here's where things get really interesting. When Mark and Helly enter, the woman there immediately asks if they're there to kill her. That's a pretty strange reaction. But Mark is actually there to ask about Ms. Casey, hoping to get clues about where she might be. The workers confirm that they know her but don't seem to have much more information. Now here's my theory. While they're talking about Ms. Casey, one of the guys, who's literally dressed like a goat, says that Ms. Casey once told him his Audi was really good at stargazing and that it was important to him. And that got me thinking, that's a pretty unusual skill to highlight, and it's even weirder that someone would feel happy about it. What if the people working in this department were originally goats? Maybe they underwent some kind of mental evolution, possibly through LUMON'S data refinement process, to become more advanced beings. You can tell these workers are intelligent, but they still act a bit strange, like they're not fully human. Also pay attention to how they react when Mark suggests that one of their goats might go missing. Their entire demeanor shifts, almost like the goats matter to them way more than anything else. And then there's that one crucial detail. The guy who mentioned stargazing refers to his Audi in the past tense. She said my Audi was good at stargazing. What if his Audi was a goat whose consciousness was transferred into a human body and the original goat body was lost? And here's something even bigger. When the woman in charge gets mad at Mark, she rings a bell to summon the other workers. And that bell, it's exactly like the ones you see on goats in farms. She rings it and suddenly everyone comes running. If this theory turns out to be true, it would be genius and absolutely insane. There are so many other details that make this theory make sense, but that's a topic for another video. If you want me to break it down even further, let me know in the comments. And now we have Mark's reintegration, allowing him to finally understand what's really happening inside Lumon. During the reintegration process, Regabi talks about 5 different brainwave frequencies: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Now, if you look at the work being done in Mark's data refinement department, you'll notice that the numbers are sorted into 5 different boxes as well. So could this mean that data refinement isn't just about correcting numbers, but actually has something to do with these brainwave frequencies that Regabi mentioned? If you pay close attention to one of the monitors, when Regabi asks about MDR, an image appears. At first is a single circle surrounded by sand, but then it splits into 4 smaller circles with one in the center. This image looks a lot like the one we see of Gemma at Cold Harbor. But now Mark faces a huge challenge. He has to stay in control while inside Lumen. As we saw with PD, reintegration causes memories from both the Audi and Ini to mix, making him unstable. If Mark's Audi takes over inside Lumen, people are definitely going to notice. As I've said before, Mark's Ini and Audi are completely different, so everyone around him will be suspicious. Honestly, it's going to be wild to see how people react when they realize his Audi is walking among them at Lumen. The next episode is going to be insane. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and leave a like. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. It would mean a lot to us. See you in the next video. Until then.